Haters are gonna hate, and we are selling new properties all the time and hearing the opposition against new property, the pros, the cons. We're going to talk about them today quickly. See you soon.
Good morning, Mark.
Hey, how are you? Top of the morning.
Controversial topic.
Oh, mate, it is. We get smashed on this as real estate agents with because we're sort of part of new developments. We witness them, we facilitate them, we guide developers, we guide purchasers into them, we sell for them. Like, it's a touchy one, hey.
I think, look, it's something that's always happened. When you even look at old buildings, they were new developments once upon a time. And it's something that I think has just been blown up in the media, especially over the past, I guess, as social media has become a bigger thing, as it's easier to access all the information. I think it's something that's been blown a little bit out of proportion in terms of what's being reported out there. And I guess the facts and the reality maybe aren't always what it appears online.
Look, the big question seems to be the quality. People have a real issue with the quality. People have no idea about the quality. They are not engineers. They are not quality control building specialists or whatever you want to call them. But they definitely have an opinion on it.
100%. And that's the thing as well, when a lot of these people are looking at these newer builds, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely some duds out there, and there's some really great ones out there as well. And pretty much from my experience, and I'm curious to hear your experience as well, Mark, I don't think I've ever seen any new build across any period of time, regardless of whether it's considered a great build or not so great build, that hasn't gone through some form of teething problems after it's been built.
Well, you know, if you look at Northern Beaches as a sample, there's 100,000 properties on the Northern Beaches. Anything that I see, and I've been an agent for 30 years, anything that I've seen that's been built in the last 30 years has got holes in it. There's issues with it. There's problems with it. People are not happy with it. The reality is they're still standing. The reality is there hasn't been problems since that first initial 5-year period. But it makes me think, like, isn't it normal that every property has issues? Like, I look at a car and you expect, if a lot goes wrong with your car, well, it's a shit car. But if something goes wrong with your car, it's all right, as long as it's not too much. But there doesn't seem to be that tolerance with property.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of the flack that comes from it out there as well, and you hear it time and time again, is with developers that build properties. And maybe they build, like you said, they go through that teething problems, and that's all right. But I think a lot of the time where people sometimes have that frustration is if the builder comes back and fixes it. And there always seems to be this friction in between the people that bought in the building, the builders, and whether they come back and actually fix the issues. And obviously the owner's corporation will always have one idea of the way it should be, and the builder will always have another idea of the way it should be. And of course, when the media presents it, they're always going to go, bad Mr. Builder, he's not doing it the exact way the owner's corp is asking them to do it.
Well, a developer's not an open checkbook either. There's limits. They're guided by professionals, by consultants that are experts in the field of drainage or plumbing or whatever that may be, and they'll need those checks and things, but to make sure it's all right. But Meriton's a perfect example. Now, I will say that we have sold, do sell for Meriton, are selling for Meriton at the moment. I get so much flack, and we sold more in Meriton DY than any other agent. You sold more. We were super active in that building, and the amount of crap we heard about new building and then it was like an arm wrestle. And inevitably, we won most arm wrestles and sold the people the properties in there. But This is someone that's built 70,000 apartments. There's not even 10,000 apartments in DY. It's probably more apartments than what's in the entire CBD of Sydney. He's built more than that, and like, people don't reckon. And over 60 years, and people go, nah, not going to buy their building. Not a good builder. It's like, if that's not a good builder, who is?
Yeah, very, very true. And it's really interesting as well. When we were selling a lot of these ones off the plan, guys, the amount of people that I spoke to that end up buying in that building that just were not open to the concept of a newer build. They went, nah, I don't want to touch it. I've heard that there's things in the media and I'm worried of what this, that. And when they come through, they fall in love with it. It works. There's a reason why these newer builds do well. There's a reason why they command premium prices for it, because they're moving the way that people want to live. And the difference is a lot of these older blocks around, let's say, DY or Northern Beaches suburbs, they're great. They were built 40, 50, 60 years ago, designed for a way of living then. These newer builds now, they're designed for the way people want to live now. And I found it really interesting because now, looking in hindsight, now that building's been done about 3 years now, it continues to get big premiums and people want to be in there even more than when we were first building it.
But Michael, on the approach, people bloody hated it.
Correct. There was a lot of
planning. In the planning stages, no. And it's almost like, guys, you just got to get used to this, because with it seems like, looking back, and look, I'm not speaking for all parts of Sydney and all developments. I'm just saying from what we've seen as real estate agents, observers, and from that aspect, like, we look at DY, people were absolutely ropeable, but they didn't want to see a property like that in the area. I haven't met one since it was built that isn't over the moon with what that development's produced. And it just makes me think there's got to be some sort of tolerance or acceptance with building quality and repairs and maintenance. There's got to be some sort of tolerance and acceptance with developing in an area, because generally it's either 0 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. 0, we hate it, we're opposing it, or 10, it's built, it's pretty good.
Well, that's the thing. I just think, and I think they're moving in the right direction in terms of the regulations around it. All you want is for someone who's building it to be like someone. It's nice, like when you see someone like Meriton, because they've got a track record with it, so you know that. And for example, in this new building there, they have come back when there's been defects. Like every new building, they've come back and they've fixed it.
Amazing.
You just want to know that when you're buying into a new build, it's not going to fall over on you like one of those extreme examples. And then obviously when there are teething problems, that what the right thing is to do gets done. So the builder's still around, they come back, they fix the things that they're meant to fix. There's always going to be that tension with it. That's just the nature of people sitting on opposing sides. But one big thing that I was thinking about before is, as much as I guess all the people out there that are anti-new development, what happens if we cut out all new development? We don't build any new housing, any new apartments. What happens then? Property prices go up.
We're stuffed.
You run out of supply. More and more people are still coming into the country. More and more people still want to live in these areas. And I'm not saying oversupply them to buggery and build thousands upon thousands of apartments for somewhere that doesn't have the infrastructure to be able to handle it. But smart town planning, building new developments as they're needed, I think something that we need to obviously continue forward.
So it's one of those things, I guess, guys, and if you just tuned in, we're talking about new developments and do we really need them and people's response to them. I think the reality is that if you look at the cost of building today, if you look at the prices reducing in some areas of Sydney, if you look at how tight planning is in Sydney, I think there's a massive issue, because even if prices were great, building costs were low, and planning was good, easy, you would still, and you decided to build all these units. Its fulfillment's about 5 years away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's not looking good. Building costs are really high. Prices are down. or even and possibly down further. Interest rates are high. It's not looking good for the fulfillment for new developments, which will ripen in 5 years' time if we were good to do it today. So by the
Yeah.
time it gets good, by the time they fulfill the units, we're going to have a massive undersupply in Sydney. We're stuffed with, it's good for prices going up in that with that tightening of the stock in 3, 5, 7 years time. But there's a problem there.
Well, it's true. It's very simple maths, isn't it? It doesn't really incentivize new development when, like you said, building costs are through the roof. Sale prices are really far down. That really cuts into, I guess, the whole purpose of someone building development is as a business to make money. There's not really much there, and we're starting to see it. There's not a whole lot of new developments went up over the past 5 years. Starting now, moving forward, there's not a whole lot coming up in comparison. And I think exactly what you said there, Mark. We're going to have a big undersupply afterwards. And I'm curious. The biggest thing I always hear with developments is, also newer developments, I don't want to buy it because I know that the builder's going to cut corners and the quality is not going to be as good. I've got a genuine question here for you. If you think, so as a buyer, if you knew that developer went and made the slabs twice as thick, they used all the old school, let's say, like more solid materials than maybe what they use the lighter weight materials these days, which cost an absolute fortune, 2-3 times the cost. Would you pay do you think the development would sell and the buyers would go pay 2-3 times the premium on the property?
No, I know they won't.
And that's our problem.
I distinctly remember a development in DY. There was 200 lot developments. One was built over-spec'd. Well, one was built under-spec'd and a little bit fun and sexy. The guy who over-spec'd flushed his money
because they
both sold for the same prices.
And this is the problem with it. And I don't know if it's something that can be fixed, but buyers will never believe, because it's almost intangible in terms of, unless you're a builder, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes, like behind the gyprock and the development in the ground. People don't know, and they're not going to pay premium just because you told them that that's there as well. So what's incentivizing a builder to do so as well? And then there's the ethics of it all. And it seems to be a problem that I don't know if there's necessarily a solution to.
Look, it's equity comes with clean hands. Builders are building to spec. Right. So they are building what they can sell and what they can profit on. If they feel there was a higher profit margin on a higher quality development, they will do it. But if you look on balance to all the stuff that's being delivered into Sydney, they don't want to spend too much. They don't want to spend not enough. There's actually a fine art and a fine balance to it already. And I think this is the best of the best. Like if you're a developer spending 20, 30, 50 million on a development, you don't go in and ignore, all the feedback that you get from the public, from agents, from everyone. You sort of listen and make the best decision to make a profitable development. So these guys are clever. They're not muppets. They're tailoring to the market, and the market doesn't want double the thickness slabs. They will not pay for it. The builder will not build it.
They'll complain about it, but they won't. They don't want to pay for it.
They'll complain about it.
Correct. And look, like any industry, it's not perfect. There's definitely duds out there. There's definitely great ones out there. But I think moving forward with it, if it's being regulated the way it is, they continue to improve regulations with it. Builders continue to do the best they can to provide a product. And we're seeing it around as well. It's not like every new build is shocking. Like in DY, for example, when we spoke on one day, the Meriton block in DY, there's some great buildings out there. Are they perfect? No. But do they supply exactly what people are looking for? Yes. And I think that's a positive step moving forward.
Look, I know it. I know the joke. If the joke's on concrete slabs, double the concrete slabs. But
that's the thing you always hear about. That's the biggest one you hear from buyers. That's the biggest thing that you talk about the quality development. How thick's the slab? That's probably one of the biggest ones.
So Harry Triggerboff, a speech that he did in DY, fact. They have never poured so much concrete into a building than what they built in the lighthouse in DY. Fact.
Yeah.
People still have a problem with it. And it's like, dude, you got no idea. This is strong. This is a really good, strong building. There's more concrete in this joint than anything the biggest builders ever built. And yeah, I think it's just it's just haters are always going to hate. That's the bottom line of today, and it's you got to navigate through it. I think it's probably we're at the point of being over-regulated in the marketplace with building now. If you look at the amount of buildings that are pulled up and the amount of buildings that are built, it's a minority of the number. You know, I think worldwide we've got a pretty goddamn good standard of build. You know, for most parts in the world, we are already a highly regulated country with everything else, and it's definitely like that in building.
Well, that's the thing. You want to protect the consumers, but you also want to keep the incentive there for the builders to keep building, because exactly like what you said before, if they stop building, there's bigger problems that go around the corner.
It's happened. They're stopping. They've stopped. The pipeline in Sydney and some parts of Australia is not looking good. Like Luke mentioned, there's 300,000 people coming in the next 12 months to the country. They have to live somewhere. We have a good whinge about petrol prices. This is much bigger than petrol prices. You may put $50 or $100 in your tank a week or more, but your mortgage is a hell of a lot more than that. So, or your rent is a hell of a lot more than that. Your rent can be $500, $600, $700 a week, and your mortgage can be $1,000 a week. So I think we've got to be really, really careful about that affordability, and new developments, new land subdivisions. They really are a necessity if we have migration like we have migration.
100%. You can't tell, guys, we're very passionate about this.
It's a dangerous topic as well. Like we don't want to tread on people's feet, but the reality is, we just got to keep trucking.
100%. You definitely need it. We see the view from both sides. It's about finding that balance. It's never going to be perfect, but it needs to happen. That is the bottom line. Exactly how you do it, that can be argued, but it needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. SILJIC. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.